Good day. Welcome to Infinity Safety Awareness, our community podcast. I'm your host, Sonal Fool. Before we go further, I would like to acknowledge we are on the traditional land on which we reside. It's a Treaty 6 territory. We would like to thank you, the diverse indigenous people whose ancestors' footsteps have marked the territory for the centuries, such as Cree, Dene. We are in Edmonton. We are in Alberta, which is a proud land of all the different communities who have come and settled us. Our goal, our mission is to create a safe place for all the communities, for everyone. Today we have Rizwan with us. We are going to talk to him. We are going to talk, we are going to learn, we are going to know about the Ramadan. Welcome, Rizwan. And before I go or proceed further, what's a right word to greet? Is a Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak? Could you tell us a little bit so we are not mispronouncing? And thank you for taking your time to enlighten us.
Thank you very much, Sunny. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the important month of Ramadan. So to answer your first question, the way it's pronounced, it's called Ramadan. And the last part, which we usually use as a greeting, is Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak. These are Arabic words. Kareem means you have some blessings. Mubarak means congratulations. So both way of greeting people are fine. You can say Ramadan Mubarak, you can say Ramadan Kareem. They are both fine.
So now we are talking Ramadan, we like Mubarak, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Ramadan, like the significance of Ramadan?
Okay, so Ramadan, first of all, is the 9th month of Islamic calendar. You haven't asked me the question, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about the calendar. So in Islamic world, we follow a calendar, which is of course 12 months in a year, but it is based on lunar sighting. So we follow a lunar calendar, which means every month is based on the age of the moon. And the age of the moon cannot be more than 30 days. So each month in Islamic calendar is either 29 days or 30 days. So looking at the solar calendar, which we usually follow in the world, which is January, February, we have months which have 30 days, 31 days, 28 days, and 29 days. But for Muslims, we follow the lunar calendar. So Ramadan is the 9th month, and it is considered one of the most holiest months for Muslims all over the world. Go ahead.
No, reason being, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you because that's very interesting to know, right? Like when you say 9th month, and if we are finding, like if we're going with the calendar, like, English calendar or the calendar we follow most like internationally now, is the 4th month.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the Islamic calendar is the 9th month.
Right.
So so could you tell, because I'm a bit confused, like, I just want to not confuse it, but I will be really appreciative if you tell us a little bit more about the.
Yeah. So like I explained, lunar months, they are based on the lunar cycle. So each month is either 29 days or 30 days. We don't have a month in Islamic calendar which is more than 30 days. So that's the reason every year Ramadan starts 10 to 12 days earlier. So last year this is April, this time start in March. So last year it started in April. This time start in last week of March. Next year is going to be the first week of March. So because the number of days are either 29 and 30, they always shift back 10 to 12 days. Does that explain?
Yeah. So my next question is, Rizwan, like when we talk about like Ramadan, right? Like after the fasting is the Eid. And as per what my knowledge, there are two Eids, like, so could you tell us what's the difference between this Eid, the other Eid, and so we know a little bit more the significance of it?
Right. So Muslims, they have two celebrations in the year, and both are called Eid. One is called Eid al-Fitr, second one is called Eid al-Adha. What we are doing right now, we are in the middle of Ramadan. Once we finish 29 or 30 days fast, the following day will be the day of celebration. This day of celebration is because we have gone through a month of rituals, and now we are going to celebrate by eating, meeting people, wearing new clothes. That's what we call Eid al-Fitr. Happens once a year. After 2 months, 2.5 months, depending upon, again, the lunar months, there's going to be another big event for Muslims, which is a pilgrim. We call it Hajj. In simple words, Muslims, they will go to Mecca, they will perform the rituals over there, they will go in the holiest place, and then after completing the Hajj, we do sacrifice an animal and we celebrate another Eid, and we call it Eid al-Adha. So these are the 2 Eids we celebrate in a year.
So thank you, Rizwan. Like now you have brought the, we are talking about the Hajj, we are talking about the Ramadan. As per my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. We have 5 pillars of Islam.
Right.
So is Ramadan, Hajj is one of them. Could you tell us about the 5 pillars so we know more about it?
100%. So I will try to use the English words to explain that, because we have words in Arabic too, but this is more like a general knowledge. So I'll try to stick to the common language. Yes, there are 5 pillars of Islam. The first one we call is the faith, or believe in one God. We call it faith. The second one is prayers, which we are supposed to pray 5 times a day. Namaz, people go. The third one is charity. We are supposed to give out certain amount of money for charity, so that we are promoting the society and we're doing the right thing. And then we have the fourth pillar is when we fast. We call it Som, we call it Rosa. It's in the month of Ramadan. And the fifth pillar we have is the annual pilgrimage. We call it Hajj, which is for Muslims who can afford and in a good shape. They must go and perform this at least once in their lifetime. So these are the 5 pillars of Islam. So Ramadan, when we are fasting, Rosa, this is one of the pillars of Islam, and it is a very important month for all of us.
No, I really appreciate for telling us and the significance of Ramadan, like being one of the pillars, so is a duty. So as we are the time is changed, we are in a workforce, we work in shift work, we work in construction, we work in manufacturing. So being a health and safety person too, I'm going to bring those I should not be saying concerns, but bringing those awareness as what we should be doing if we have a person who is fasting and he's on a shift work or in a night shift or a manufacturing unit. What precautions, or not the precautions is not the right word, what we should be doing as a modified work, where does it land?
So first of all, based on my existing knowledge, I don't think so there is a rule right now or a law that all the employers are supposed to accommodate people who are following a certain season, I would say, for fasting, for example. However, in construction industry, we have people who work on tools. We don't work in nice places. We work in rough and tough environment. There's a lot of physical activities. There is a lot of work. So people who are fasting, if they can be accommodated, they can be accommodated in different ways. My personal experience of work on different projects, on one project, we actually send out a memo to all the people working for us and saying, month of Ramadan is starting. If you're following Ramadan, you have the option, you can switch your shift. Instead of working on day shift, you can work on night shift. Just kind of slightly easier on the body and people can do it. Having said that, some projects, you don't have a night shift. At that time, you can say, okay, employers are willing to give you, if you want to take time off, you can take time off for the month, for the week, or for whatever time you want. Now, of course, when we take time off, the question comes about the cost and the finances. Since this is not a stat holiday, a lot of people, they choose not to because we all work for money. Now, the third option, or the other option, is maybe do a little bit of accommodation. Instead of, a person who's doing a lot of physical work, give him a little bit of less load of work, or put him into a team and, divide the load of work. So in this way, we are helping a little bit, when we go for a coffee break, if there is someone who's following the concept of the fasting, give him a little, maybe 10 minutes to just cool down a little bit, sit in the shade or do whatever. So these are the type of things which I've seen different organizations are doing it on a different level. Some companies, they give you the opportunity, if you are in the office, for example, that instead of starting at 8 o'clock, you can start 7 o'clock. Since you're not going on your coffee break or lunch break, instead of finishing up at 4 o'clock, you can finish at 3 o'clock. So that gives you a little bit of extra time. So these are kind of different accommodations. Employers, if they want to, they can do it. I'm going to tell you a story here. It was back in 2012. I was working in Fort Mac on a project, and the owner of living in the camp. And in the camp, we have dining hall hours, there's certain time, all that stuff. They actually made special arrangements for the people following Ramadan. And they open up the dining hall late and earlier just to accommodate, the pre-dawn meal and sunset meal. So there are different ways if organizations they want to compensate their employees in these type of situations. That is a good gesture.
No, I really agree with, like, I 100% agree with you. Like, if you can accommodate, because it's a teamwork. Like, if
Right.
we all work together for a safer environment, safer community, and we respect each other and we learn from each other. So when the Ramadan comes, we work as a team to and accommodate everyone. But sometimes it's not a possibility. Like, like the smaller companies or smaller organizations or small stores, like, convenience store, they can't have that kind of a opportunities where we can adjust that. So what we can do there, in your opinion?
I will say this is also sometimes depends on people. Okay. If I'm in a situation where it is not possible for me to fast, like I can give you one small reference. We have some Quranic guidance which makes it clear that fasting is not meant to cause serious hardship, right? So if we are in a situation where we can see there is a serious hardship, we can actually ask for absence, and there are different ways to compensate what we have missed. We can do it. For example, if we are traveling, we don't have to fast, right? So what you do is you miss 1 or 2 days, you can make it up sometime later, or there are other ways you can do it. So there are different ways you can do it. There are different ways a person can choose, and there are different ways any company can do. Last but not least, I will say this: a lot of people, if they have time off or work holidays or vacation time, usually they accumulate those days, and they say, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and follow my Ramadan properly. So that's also one of the options.
So if I understood correctly, like when we talk about the hardship because of the reasoning, we could be traveling, it could be medical conditions, you could be, with the
You're
baby.
sick, you're pregnant, you're elderly, your health doesn't allow you to do it, you're on medicines which you are supposed to take on a regular basis. For sure, it's not like, okay, then you're fine, you don't have to fast. There are other ways which you can somehow make it up to, okay, I can't fast. And at the end of the day, the interesting fact about the fasting is this is one of the, I'm going to use the word ritual because, again, trying to keep the language easy. This is something between you and God. No one else knows about it. I can tell you right now, hey, Sunny, I'm fasting. Maybe then I'll have a couple of cup of teas and coffee, and but this is between me and God. So if I'm not fasting for a reason, God knows the reason.
So Rizwan, thank you for clarifying that, because, and I'm going to, like, as I requested and kind of confessed, I'm asking the question because I'm not aware of it. So it's more on an information session. And it's not to, its purposes of this whole conversation is to create a awareness, not to offend anyone, right? And if I, by any mistake, if I asked a question which is not right, I'm apologizing. I'm saying sorry in advance.
No need to apologize. It's all good.
So could you tell us, like, now we're talking about the Ramadan, so other question, the other information you brought it, the sunrise to sunset, like, like the late, and when you were there, the meals were taken late and started, the day started early. Could you tell us a little bit more about it? Like when the Rosa starts and end or finish, or
So usually a fast is from sunrise to sunset. So in simple words, you can say it's a pre-sunrise to sunset fast. This can last between 10, 12 hours, depending upon where you are. So when the sun rise, that's the time when we stop eating, drinking, smoking, doing everything. Okay. And then we break the fast when the sun is set. So you look at the clock, follow the timing, and then go with according to your timing. If you live in Alaska, days are very long and nights are very short. On the flip side, comes December, days are short and nights are long. So that's how we follow the whole schedule during the Ramadan for fasting. So simple words: pre-sunrise, stop eating, stop drinking, stop smoking, doing all those stuff, and then you can break the fast when the sun sets.
so when we are starting, like when we did talk about starting the fast and finishing the fast. So is any specific food we eat or we don't eat in the morning or night when we are starting or finishing the rosa?
So the first thing about Islam, we call it's a religion of nature, which means there is no color, there is no food, there is no dress, there is no weather for Islam. It's everywhere. So you can eat anything you want when you're fasting the break. You can eat anything you want before you start your fast. Okay. However, there are some good practices. And of course, we follow religion. So we follow a lot of deeds performed by our Prophet. Dates, if you go back in the history, Arab world, dates are something which are considered a very common food. They are full of nutrition, full of energy. So usually when we break the fast, we start eating a date, drink a glass of water, maybe juice, whatever. I've personally seen guys, they eat one date and they will drink a glass of yogurt. Excuse me. I've seen guys, they drink Coke, water, juice. Some people drink tea. So it all depends where you are, which part of the world you are. But the prescribed, not really the prescribed, I will say it's more like a practice to follow to eat dates, because medically they're proven they are full of energy. They have sugars in it, because if you haven't eaten, drinking anything for 10, 12 hours, your blood sugar level is up and down. So that will help you. Same thing is you try to eat something which is not very heavy on the stomach and more nourishing, so that what you can do is throughout the day, when you are kind of fasting, it will stay in your system and give you a little bit of energy.
Rizwan, I have another question for you. Like, whenever is the festival time is, right? Like, it's when we are in a festive mode or we are going to celebrate, it's a lot of gift exchange too. And when we talk about the gifts, like in our culture, it's all the sweets, food, and everything. So when we are fasting, and the gifts, how does it work? Like, because I would say, we give the chocolates, we give the Indian sweets, we give the sweets or dates. But when we are fasting, is any particular practice which we should be following it?
I will say the best practice during the month of Ramadan when people are fasting is maybe come up with some sort of a food box, snack box. And you can let's say if you have a neighbor who's a Muslim, you can, just bring it to that box to their door. So sometime in the evening, it says, okay, this is a small gesture from us. Make sure you have stuff or you have food items which are not questionable, because Muslims, they follow a certain halal way of eating meat. So instead of eating including any meat products, dates, sweets, vegetables, fruit trays, dry fruits, box of juice, So that'll be good, because it's not about feeding the food, it's more about the gesture, And even like We have people who will bring water. They will bring some sort of a special yogurt milk, right? Uh, Anything like that. That could be good. Now, if you see the family have a lot of kids, maybe give them a box of chocolates, you know. So a combination of stuff like that, it's kind of a little bit of snack, a little bit of food which you can utilize to break your fast.
So now we are like the same thing when a gesture of like good gesture, like if we have to send a gift, like when we host a, like you see every time, it's a iftar parties, or they say use the word iftar party, right? When everyone get together in the evening after
Mhm.
the prayers and they eat, or they break the fast and they eat together. So
Mhm.
does it happen in mosque also?
Yes. So it's a very common practice. A lot of mosques, they try to do a community get together, call it community iftar, which means people, they can get together, they can open the fast together. Like there is a mosque close to where I live, I can go there with a tray of food, certain items, and 10 other people will show up with the items from their house. We will all put our food together, we'll sit down and have a small meal, and then we pray. Some mosques, some community centers, they do sponsored iftar also. And let's say if you can say, okay, today, if you're doing an iftar, 25 people coming up, I'm going to sponsor. So in that way, they'll do some sort of donation, or maybe go to a restaurant and say, can you deliver this much food to that place? That is also possible. So it's a very common instant. If you go to countries like Pakistan, or even Middle East, it's a regular thing. Here in Canada, of course, because we have different systems here, we have people who are working. Sometimes time doesn't allow us to do all of that stuff. So it's done some places on a weekly basis, some places twice a week. Maybe there are places which are doing it on daily basis. So these are kind of different ways you can participate if you want.
Rizwan, my last question is like, because we have talked about so many things, we have talked about the days, we have talked about the lunar calendar, we have talked about the 5 pillars. If I have missed anything and you think so, it's really is significant and as a awareness for the non-Muslim, what if I have missed any questions, please
Yeah.
give the information.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm going to talk briefly about the importance of Ramadan. Okay. So the main concept, the base concept is for Muslims to understand the purpose and benefits of fasting in many ways. First of all, it teaches you self-control. It reinforces your faith, and it also helps you become that there is a God, you're mindful of the presence of God and the blessings of God. So this is a kind of also a mean of seeking forgiveness of your sins. And it is a reminder of the plight of those who do not have the adequate food, water, and shelter. So this is kind of like a basic idea of importance um, of following Ramadan and fasting. Now, there is a deeper purpose also of fasting, which is, it's mentioned in many places in the Quran also. It's God consciousness. Now, I'm going to explain what is the meaning of God consciousness. Consciousness. This is more like a refer to being constantly aware of God's presence. So, if I'm always aware that there is a God, and I've been blessed with a lot of things, chances are I'm going to stick to the right path and do the right thing. So this is one of the importance I like to highlight. A lot of people, they ask, how can you stay for 10, 12 hours without eating, drinking, doing anything? So the concept behind this is we want to remember. The other thing which we have missed talking about it is month of Ramadan, the last 10 days of Ramadan are considered very important. So the month is important, and the last 10 days are considered more important. So we have nightly prayers, which can take up to quite a few hours. We have some big nights where we do special rituals, pray for a lot of things from God. So those 10 days get really intense. So you'll see a lot of Muslim employees working for different organizations. If they can't book the full month off, they will request their employees to give them at least last 10 days off, which means like 5 days or 7 working days off. So that's a kind of thing also which is important just to mention, just to create awareness that if you get a request for one of your employee asking for say last 5 days off, these are the reasons. Because imagine you're not eating, drinking anything for 10, 12 hours. And then you're also staying late up every night and doing a lot of those rituals. So you get tired. So that's a kind of a little explanation to that.
No, I really appreciate, because once you don't know, you don't
Mhm.
know, right? Like, but now being aware of it, you can be more careful about the, because that's the best way we can do a fatigue management too, right?
Yeah.
And basically control the incidents happening at the work site. But
Mhm.
Rizwan, I really appreciate. Thanks a lot for taking your time. I know, and taking your time and letting us know and making us more aware of it, enlighten us about the month of Ramadan, about the prayers and the 5 pillars. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate, and wish you happy Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem.
Well, Sunny, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Have yourself a great day, sir.
Thank you for watching our community Infinity Safety Awareness. This program, we always bring a topic which we are. The purpose of bringing a topic is to create awareness and prepare and make a safer community. Thank you. Keep watching Infinity Safety Awareness, our community podcast.